Welcome to this update on the predator-resistant fence construction program. This presentation is going to be focusing on what's new compared to the first 2 years of the program, as well as showing examples of payment calculations. Funding is available to support the construction of fences that deter coyotes, wolves, bears, and other predators from entering calving and labbing areas, pastures, extended grazing areas, and dead stock composting sites. To be eligible, you must have a paid livestock predation claim under the Manitoba Wildlife Damage Compensation Program in 2021 or later. You also require a Manitoba Premise Identification Number. In addition, the project must take place on agricultural land in Manitoba, and you must manage it to deter livestock predation. Predator-resistant fence is different than normal livestock fence, and that it is intended to deter wild predators from climbing over, passing through, or burrowing under. Similar to the first 2 years of the program, funding is available for the construction of both electric and net wire fences. New for 2026, we are targeting our funding towards the higher standard fences that are required on farms with a high risk of livestock predation. We're still funding the 60-inch and 70-inch high net wire fences, but an apron is now mandatory. All net wire fences must have an apron at the bottom extending outwards in order to deter burrowing. We are continuing to fund both 9-wire and 11-wire electric fences, but 7-wire electric fences are no longer funded. Regarding the program payments, you'll be reimbursed for 75% of the total approved eligible expenses up to a maximum of $40,000 in total grant funding for fences constructed in 2026. In order to reach this $40,000 total funding cap, you would need to submit invoices and documentation of eligible expenses of $53,333 or more. Also, depending on the fence size and type, approved funding may be less than the $40,000 cap. We will discuss further how the payments work in the next few minutes. For your fence construction project, you can claim both invoiced and personal expenses. For personal expenses, your labor can be claimed at $30 per hour. Use of personal equipment can be claimed at fixed hourly rates found in the program guide, but is limited to the types of equipment found in the guide. That being said, the amount of personal equipment and labor that can be claimed is capped at $3 per linear foot of fence constructed. Up to 75% of this amount will be cost shared by the government. Invoiced expenses can be submitted for custom installation, equipment rental, and materials and supplies such as your wire, posts, and gates, and provincial sales tax. Please remember that invoices must be dated April 1st, 2026 or later to be eligible. Proof of payment is required, and invoices must be in the applicant's name and paid by the applicant. Funding approved and paid for your fence construction project is based on the type and linear feet of fence constructed, up to a funding cap per linear foot. The caps and payment rates for 2026 are similar to those in previous years. In the next slides, you will see examples of calculating the amount approved, as well as the payments for a 60-inch high net wire fence with a funding cap of $7 per linear foot. First example, you're building a 60-inch high net wire fence 8,000 feet long with an apron. The cap on funding available is $7 per linear foot based on the type of fence. The cap on in-kind labor and equipment is $3 per linear foot. Now, what does this potentially mean for the funding that might be approved when you apply? Well, you asked for 8,000 feet of fence at $7 per foot, so that multiplies out to $56,000. However, there's also a $40,000 total funding cap for the fence construction for this year. So that is the amount for which this project would be pre-approved. Now, how much is the payment after finishing constructing the fence and submitting the expenses? Well, if you submitted $12,000 in-kind expenses, those expenses are all eligible to be claimed because they're about $1.50 a foot and less than the cap for personal expenses. If you also have $30,000 in eligible invoices, that adds up to $42,000 in total eligible expenses. The government then cost shares 75% of your total eligible expenses for a total payment to you of $31,500. Here's another payment example for the same project, but where your final expenses ended up being higher. The same as in our first example, we have a 60-inch high net wire fence with an apron. Your maximum funding approved before starting the project is once again $40,000. However, in this case, you have a $16,000 in-kind expenses, but that's still less than the $3 per foot cap, and so they're all eligible. You have another $45,000 in eligible invoices. That adds up to $61,000 in total eligible expenses. Multiplying by our 75% government cost share, that works out to $45,750. However, we once again apply the program cap, and so the total payment in this example is $40,000. What do you actually need to submit for us to be able to process the payment? Well, using our example of the 8,000 foot fence, where you had a total of $61,000 in eligible expenses. So, what might you actually be submitting to us? Well, there will be a claim form. On the claim form, you will record your personal labor hours. For each type of equipment, personal equipment, you will record the hours as well. We calculate the value of those expenses based on the rates in the program guide. For your invoice costs, so that's all your materials, all your rental, any paid labor, you're going to, for each invoice, list it out on our claim form, tell us what the invoice is for and the dollar value. For each of the invoices, you will attach the proof of payment and the itemized invoice itself. After submitting those, we're able to review and add everything up. In this case, it adds up to $61,000 in eligible expenses. We can then calculate the cost share and apply any appropriate caps and issue the payment. Upon completion of the fence, an inspection is needed to verify that the work has been completed and that the fence will deter predators from climbing over, passing through, or burrowing under. These inspections can be arranged by calling 1-800-811-4411 or by emailing agriculture@gov.mb.ca. Please refer to our program guide found on the website and read the section on the fence standards that your fence must meet to pass inspection and be eligible for funding. Also read the appendix for the guidelines and further fence design and construction recommendations that will help in deterring wolves, coyotes, and other predators. New for 2026 is a livestock predation risk assessment to be completed by each approved applicant. The assessment helps to understand the risks on farms where fences are built. The assessment normally takes about 2 hours to complete. Approved applicants will be contacted by a livestock, wildlife, or other specialist to arrange the assessment. There is no pass or fail for the assessment, but it must be completed in order to receive your fence payment. The deadline for completing the assessment is November 27, 2026. Here are some important dates associated with the program. December 8, 2025 is the deadline for applications. Upon notification that your project has been approved, you will then have until October 30th, 2026 to complete the fence construction. November 27th, 2026 is the deadline for completing fence inspection and risk assessment. You must submit by December 18th, 2026 your claim for payment, including all of your invoices and proof of payment. To apply to the program, you must submit both the application information form and application worksheet. These forms, along with the program guide, can be found on our website at manitoba.ca/scap. Keep in mind, no quotes are necessary when submitting your application. If your fence construction project is approved, you will be sent a claim form to be submitted once fence construction is completed. Both the application and claim forms can be emailed to agriculture@gov.mb.ca. Further details are in the program guide found on our website. You may also reach out to our staff by emailing agriculture@gov.mb.ca or by calling 1-800-811-4411.